Thank you so much for joining us on the Dwelling Show. I'm your host, Ola Dantes. I've got the incredible Ellie Perlman with us today. Hey, Ellie, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you, Ola?
Doing fantastic, doing fantastic. So we're just gonna jump right into it. So, Ellie, I mean, I've seen your
Yeah.
pedigree. You've got, MBA. You're like crushing it, in the multifamily syndication space. But I think you do a way better job than I can. So, can you just kind of tell the Dwell listeners a little bit more about, who you are, kind of what you've been doing lately, actually.
I actually started my career as a real estate lawyer, and this is where back, right before the crash. So I had a few good years of working on interesting, projects before everything just literally crashed. But I realized that I wanted to be on the other side of the table. I wanted to be my clients basically, and so moved to the business side and worked as a property manager. And then all that happened in Israel. And then moved here to the United States about 5 years ago. Went to MIT, and then switched to investing in multifamily properties, and that's what I do today. I mean, I live in California. We own about 2,000 units now, and I buy in Texas, in Florida, and in Georgia. And basically, it's the business model is pretty simple. We find a good opportunity, which is that's the hardest part, and then we renovate the units, we raise rents. I'm sorry for all the renters out there that are listening right now, but that's how we make money. And then we sell the properties after 3 to 5 years.
Awesome. I really like that. I mean, there's a lot we can actually break in that. So you got the kind of property manager's perspective, right? And then first you got the legal side, right, as a lawyer, and then you went into property management, then investing, and now you're obviously doing it with, about $2,000 on the management. So let's kind of go back to, being a lawyer, and you had these engagements, with clients, and, you're helping them out with their real estate business. What were the things that you were seeing that made you feel like, wait, hold on a second. Like, I want to be on the other side of the table, right? Like, I mean, what were the things that you saw that kind of, started got you thinking? I'm just kind of fascinated to know.
Um, I guess it was I'm a challenge junkie, and so for me, getting into real estate from the legal point of view was challenging at first, but then it's kind of it became a little bit easier, and I saw the challenges that my clients were going through. Um, finding the right project, raising money, and working with all the different contractors. And for me, it looked like all the action was happening far away from my desk in a European country. This is where the projects were, in Eastern Europe. And they were my clients were building apartment buildings and offices. And so everything that they were doing, when they were talking about their job, when they described it during the meetings, I got jealous. I said, "Oh my God, I want to be there. I think it's a lot more interesting. I want to be out there. I want to see properties." I've always liked real estate, and I guess that's how it started. That's how it all
Awesome.
started.
Awesome. Okay, so you like properties, then you had a chance to actually touch and work in properties, being a property manager, where your expectations met, when you made that transition from, kind of being a lawyer to, actually managing an asset.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So now you came to the US. So we kind of share that in common. My wife and I have been here for about 5 years as well. So you came to the US, you went to MIT, great school. You got your MBA. Normally folks that kind of go, on this path would go into maybe investment banking or kind of a C-suite job or maybe a higher, management position. Why did you think you wanted to go into kind of like real estate investments? Why didn't you just kind of go for the, the expected 9 to 5, job, as opposed to kind of going through this? I know you said you're a challenge junkie, but what kind of made you think that way?
It's a good question. Most of my friends are making between $300,000 and $500,000. At this point, um, I was tempted. I can't tell you that I wasn't. And I actually tried. I worked in tech for a bit, And there's something that is not, again, challenging enough. There are a lot of projects that I took on and I was working on them, and it's just not, at some point I just felt that I was not fulfilled, that there's so much more that I can do, and it's pretty much limited by what my boss thought I could do, or but what the needs of that company, what the needs were at that point in time. So there's kind of a cap on your potential, in a way. And at some point I realized that if I want anyone to look at me and write me a check for doing a hard work and assessing my potential, I wanted to be an investor and not an employer. And so I wanted to have the freedom and more control and of my life. And I just couldn't live like anybody else. I couldn't be one of the herd. And I remember even back in Israel, I used to sit in my car and drive an hour to work, an hour each way. Because traffic is terrible in Tel Aviv, I can tell you that. And I remember sitting with my husband. He used to be my boyfriend at the time, and I told him, and that was more than, I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago. And I said, Ben, you see, or I call him Babe, actually, I would not call him by his name, but I said, Babe, you see all these people around us. I feel like I'm like a sheep, like I'm part of the herd. We're all 8:30 a.m. We're all sitting in traffic. We're all going to work. One day, that's not going to, I'm taking myself out of this equation. This could not be me, because I think that life has so much more to offer. And just just doing what everyone else is doing, I guess it's not exciting enough. And I want my life to be filled with excitement, with fulfillment. And let me tell you that you have to be careful about what you wish for, because real estate will give you all of those, and it's not always going to be easy or comforting, or there's a lot of predictability in going to work and coming back. You know exactly how much you're going to make by the end of the month. And that's not the case with real estate, but I'm totally fine with it because it has all those other positive things that I talked about, that it's just a package deal. And I mean, I think that's how I see life. And I think if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be a little bit different than others. Otherwise, it's really not going to be fun for you, and you're not going to suffer. You're going to suffer. You're not going to enjoy it. And a big part of what I do is enjoy what I do, even though it's not always great. It doesn't always go the way that you plan. You have to be okay with it, and just enjoy what you do and enjoy life.
Oh man, there's just so many things. I mean, I always like hold myself back to kind of push my biography on, the audience and obviously my guests, but I was in the same exact boat. I've been to Tel Aviv, by the way. I was there, I think it was last year, maybe early this year, I can't remember. And we did go to Jerusalem as well, actually. So yeah, I can tell, like I can relate to the traffic for sure. Beaches are beautiful, nothing like I imagined actually. So yeah, I can definitely, relate. But also I think what people like me and you like about real estate is also the fact that you can, create, something like a legacy, right? And maybe you could even pass it on to the next generation, right? And, they don't have to go through that same feeling of, is this it, right? Go to work, come back home, sleep, go to work, that kind of cycle, that, kind of everyday predictable life. So I can totally relate to it. I just kept nodding and laughing as you were talking, because I can totally relate. So you were in investing. How did you actually get your feet into the door, right? So that's like a big question for a lot of people listening to this and going, Ellie, yes, me too. Like I'm in the car listening to this podcast and I don't want to do this. Like, so what did you do to maybe get your first deal done, or to kind of get your feet into the door?
So I did multiple things. The first thing that I did is educate myself, because without knowing what you're doing, it's just a recipe for disaster. And I made sure that I'm not going to be there. Not going to make mistakes. And listen, we're all humans. We're all going to make mistakes, but at least what you can do is minimize the chances of them, of mistakes to take place. And so I've educated myself, listened to podcasts. I read a bunch of books. I also took some real estate classes back in MIT. So I had that, basic understanding and background in underwriting. I know about real estate contract negotiation from my days as a lawyer and as a property manager, but the investment side is very unique to investors. So that's the piece of information that I had to complete. And I took a mentor, and it took me about 6 months as I was educating myself to figure out who I want to go with. Um, but for me, and I knew it cost me a lot of money, but I knew that that was an investment, and I knew that I wanted to be with someone who can guide me through, I can learn from, so I can focus on building a company and not learning how to build my company and making mistakes along the way. And my husband and I have been investing passively, which gave me information, knowledge about, okay, this is how another syndicator or syndicators, or that's how they position the deals. This is the markets that they like, that's what they do with the property. So I had a good understanding of how it works. And so, as I mentioned, the passive investing, learning, and joining a mentorship program, for me, that was very helpful. And that's the number one advice that I give others that ask me, how do I start? I want to be like you, I want to be in your shoes. I say, I can only give you advice based on what worked for me, and this is what worked for me. So not everyone has the financial means to invest in multiple syndications as limited partners, as passive investors, but books are not expensive, podcasts are literally free, and you can read articles. My website, for instance, I have free education articles for both limited partners and both passive investors and syndication. So you can find this website that you like and keep reading and educating yourself. And then finally, the last piece was the mentoring program as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much talk about, mentors and coaches and gurus, and I don't even know, so many
Oh
terms,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Don't join a guru. Don't join a guru. There's a huge difference between a guru and a mentor. A mentor is someone who's willing to talk to you and walk you through the process. A guru is someone who tells you after they give you a free event, run to the back of the room, 20% only today. We have only 7 seats left, or something like that, and pressure you. If anybody's pressuring you to do anything, for me, that's a big red flag. That means this is not the right person for me. So someone that you feel comfortable with, someone that when you see what they've done, and you basically, and that's why I chose my mentor, by seeing, okay, this is what this guy did in a short period of time. This is his credential. I see that he's really good at X. So every mentor has something they're good at, either knowing how to raise money, underwriting deals, finding deals. There's some emphasis on in each program, and you got to understand the difference between them, and then choose right.
Yeah, I mean, you said so many things. I mean, there's so many things to even go into now, because we're coming close to the end. But before we finish, I just want to ask you one question. So, you've done some deals. You have about $2,000, asset under management, AUM. So, can you pick one case study or one deal that was just unique for you guys? Maybe you were an LP or a GP, or just a deal that you liked, and just kind of walk us through, how the deal was, how you found the deal, how the deal was funded, just a full case study.
A deal that was unique. I mean, every deal is very, very different. I can tell you about one of the deals we've done in Jacksonville, where it was pretty awesome. It was an off-market deal that my partners brought to my table, and we realized that the seller was not an experienced investor, to say the least. And he has been, I hope he's not listening, but he has been renovating all the units. He renovated, almost all of them. And he didn't raise rents. And he only realized that he can do that 3 or 4 months before he decided to sell the property, and he was getting over $200, $250 rent premiums, which is insane for $1,000, base rent. So he did it because he was a contractor, so he could do the renovations at a fraction of a cost, compared to anyone else. But still, he realized what he has done, and he told the broker, I should have raised rents a year ago. I cannot believe it. He just gave it for free. He just wanted to keep occupancy high, and we got the property at 100% occupancy. So we just raised all rents when someone, after we took over, when the lease is up, we say, hey buddy, $250, yes or no? And no, then we're bringing someone else, and people are still, and it's still close to 100% occupied. So that was an interesting story. And the broker actually wanted to invest also as a limited partner, but the time he realized that, oh my God, this is a cash cow, this is like a great deal, we already closed the funding round. So he said, sorry buddy, you should have told us that earlier, would have been happy to have you. So
Wow.
it was it was a great deal. It's that's one of the great way, that was a great partnership. So we joined the other partners that I worked with, and so they brought the deal to the table, and it worked great.
Wow.
So
Wow. Isn't that
yeah.
fascinating, right? You would assume somebody that was able to take down an apartment building would know kind of, that's like the basic thing, right? You just go in and, jack up the rent,
Yeah.
right? Like, hello,
But you
like,
know
duh.
something?
Yeah.
It's obvious to you. It's obvious to you because you're educated and you know how to
Mm,
do things.
that's,
Not
yeah.
everyone.
Apparently not. Yeah, that's fascinating. We're definitely. I wish I could just keep going, but we're definitely dwelling into the quick rounds. These are going to be quick questions, quick answers. You ready, Ma? All right. First
Yes.
question. All right, let's do this. First question: what makes you, Ellie, unique? What is that differentiating factor that separates you from the next girl or the next guy?
I would say one of the things is that I don't, it's I don't see my investors as investors. Some of them became my friends over the time. Very open, very honest with them, and so I think my approach is a bit unique because this is a bit. I'm running a business, but I don't treat them as investors. It's as the same way that I would treat my family members. And so that level of, I think, communication, and I think when they talk to me, they see that it's kind of different. You're not talking with someone that is wearing a suit and tie, and it's very formal. It's very different. I see them as partners. And so sometimes we go hiking together, and sometimes we meet for random dinners, and I bring my husband. And so it's I'm trying to have fun and enjoy, and I think that's what it makes my company pretty unique.
Yeah, that I really like that. That's a really important one because I call it marriages sometimes, right? Because some deals could be a 5 to 7 year old, so you're not just this is not a transaction. This is an ongoing relationship, right? And it could be for life, right? So yeah, I really like that approach. Second question: what was the last book that you read? What was the one thing that you picked up from that book?
The last book that I read was, well, there are a couple. Let me think which one is is better. Um, I would say don't and never split the difference by Chris Voss, which he was an negotiator. He um, all kinds of tactics on how to negotiate, and I like that. It's interesting because I've learned how to negotiate in business school, and then I learned how to negotiate in law school, and then you have this FBA guy that learned how to negotiate. I think the number one thing that I've learned from this book is how important it is to listen and have other people feel like that they are that they are heard, and not just try to think how to answer or how to reply, but really let them speak. And that makes them feel very secure, very comfortable, and it just facilitates the can basically make the negotiation work a lot better.
That book has been mentioned, I think, as many times as Rich Dad Poor Dad on this podcast. It's just an amazing book. So if there's somebody listening on this show, or maybe they want to learn more about you, or they just think, wow, I really like this Ellie. Yeah, maybe I'm in California and they want to reach out to you, or maybe they want to learn more about your podcast. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how we can reach out and connect with
Sure. So, my email address is ellie@lake-capital.com. You can, if you type Ellie, which is Ellie, Ellie Perlman on Google, you can, you know, find my website on through the website. Yeah, I guess, I'm pretty easy to get a, to reach. So that's not going to be an issue. Just Google my name.
Awesome. Ellie, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I learned a ton myself. Thank you for coming on the show.